G'day everyone, popping in for our usual live chat. Looking forward to today's discussion with everyone. So just waiting on basically a few of you to pop in and say hi. What am I going to crack a stubby with you again today? Look, it's not that warm today, but I thought, who cares? So what are we going to have? I'm going to have a Peroni with you guys today. Obviously it's Italian, I think. I'm sure it is. Just trying to see where it says it's made from. Not sure. I think we had a discussion about this before. Oreo was saying it's not actually made in Italy. I'm not sure. Does it say product of Italy? Doesn't say. Well, it does say Italiana on there. So anyway, I'm going to crack it. I'm going to use my Vegas bottle opener. Here we go. We're off and running. Cheers, everyone. Time to crack a stubby with me. So obviously, if you're from the States or Europe, crack one with me now. Oh, yep. Love it. So who have we got? We got Gerald's here. Julio's here from Puerto Rico. Tony's here. G'day, everyone. Popping in for our usual live chat. Mike's saying, hi, David, how's it going? Great, Mike, actually. Chris is also here. Hello, David. Another hot one in Los Angeles, a big Corona day. Yeah, it would be for you guys. That's for sure. I'm going on a 5-day sort of break on Monday morning. We're flying out really early. We're going up to Surfers Paradise, so we're looking forward to that. Can't wait to have a little bit of fun. Surfers for us, for the people in the US, it's sort of like me going up to Florida, I suppose. It's that type of thing. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and a bit of sun with Kerry. So we're going to have a bit of a break for a few days. I probably will post live from there. Excuse me, still got this bit of a cough. Who else have we got? Yeah, Chris was saying it's hot in LA. Hopefully the fires aren't too bad for you guys over there. Mike's just saying hi, everyone. G'day, Ben. Good to see you on here. Rodney is saying hi. Julio's saying sweet. David Johnson's here as well. John is saying, wow, finally made it from a live show. Hi from Ottawa, Canada. Having a Kilkenny. Woohoo. Julio's just saying cheers. Mike's also saying howdy. Likes is saying hi, David and the crew from Bali. TC Production says, hi, David from South Africa. G'day, TC. Barry's just saying hi. Langston said, trying to decide if the Moser Air Desire is gas or better for me. Still kicking the idea around when you showed using both also. I know the supplier that I'm dealing with that's going to start sending me some stuff has asked me if I was interested in reviewing the Moser Air Cross, and I said to him, well, I've already got that. And I've already reviewed a number of videos using that. But he said he's also got some Moser Air other stuff. So perhaps it's the Moser Air or something like that. I'm not sure. But he's going to send me some other Moser Air gear to review. So I might be able to do the Air for you. Remember, the Air Cross is perfect, I think, for mirrorless if you're dealing with the normal lenses like you'd use, which is like the Tamron 28-75. It's fantastic for that. I'm just putting up pre-show. It's fantastic for that because it's really a light type setup. So it will handle, say, a a7iii or an a9 with the Tamron 28-75, or if you were using the 55 or even the 35 1.4. But you wouldn't want to use, say, the 24-70 GM on there. It would be too much for the motors to handle, I think, or the 70-200. So therefore, you'd need to go to the Moser Air if you were going to go that way. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by Moser. I just adore their gear. I just love it. And it was interesting when he contacted me to say he wanted me to review the Moser Air Cross. And I said, well, I've already got it. So that was quite interesting. But the Langston, the Moser Air is amazing. And it really is a fantastic gimbal. Nice and light. And that's what really what I really like, because it's not too heavy to carry around. And for me, I'll probably take that traveling next week. Or I may even use just this with the crane M that I've got. I'm not sure yet which way I'll go, but I'll let you know. Jay is also on here. Michael from Dallas. Jim is here as well from Orlando. Likes is saying Peroni red label import from Italy, David. Oh, see, yeah, so it is import from Italy, is it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it says Roma, Italy. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's not bad either, actually. It's quite nice. Don't mind it at all. Ben saying, don't forget your sunblock. Yeah, I know. I'll probably need it, Ben, knowing me. I'm Brown's just saying, what's up? He's talking to someone else. Tim is saying, good having this in the background while I search for lenses. What are you after, Tim? David said, not much, soul brother. Number one, how about yourself? Oh, he's talking to I'm Brown. Carl said, good evening, morning or afternoon. Yeah, I know everyone's everywhere. David said, very cool. Oh, he's talking to someone else. Mike said, forgot about the 24 1.4 GM. Received my Sigma 24. Oh, forget about the GM. I'm going to talk about that actually, Mike. You've received your Sigma 24 1.4 in the Art E-mount and you love it. You're saying it's killer, sharp, razor light performance. Excellent. AFS, completely noiseless. How was that in video, Mike? Did you test that lens in video with continuous tracking? I'll just be curious to know how it went, whether you did that or not. Langston said, well, I'm testing out Rowan S and camera offhand this weekend. We shall see how it works. Yep. Look, everyone that I've even seen, the Rowan S is meant to be amazing. It's probably just too heavy for what I use. It doesn't mean I won't get it. I may potentially get that in the future if I'm just doing more video. But at this stage, for me, doing fusion, which is a mix of both stills and video, I prefer to have the lightweight like the Moser. That may change in the future, though, if I just want to do some video. I would like to try it, though, and review it if I can get my hands on one. That's about it. So we've caught up. So we're going to go through the latest news anyway. If you want to contact me during the chat, guys, just make sure you do put the @David Oastler. It just means I won't miss your comment because I will come back to the chat at the end of going through the latest news and rumours. And then basically it just means I won't miss what you're actually going to see. Ken Wheeler silence. Hey, mate, are you going to switch to Fujifilm? No. All right, so let's go. So let me just clear this. I'm going to bring up the logo just in case I want to switch or cut this out later on because this is the pre-show. So bear with me a second, guys, and we'll start the show. G'day everyone from sunny Melbourne. Well, it's not actually sunny. I'm expecting it to actually pour down in around about 20 minutes, I think. There's a massive storm coming in from Ballarat, which is just sort of north of me, or west of me. So I think we may hear some rain, I'm not sure. Got a wedding tomorrow that I'm looking forward to doing. It's going to be a really good one for me because it's actually all local. We're going to be dealing with it's like a farm wedding tomorrow, and we're going to be using hay bales and tractors and all things like that. And then the reception actually is here. They own a restaurant locally. It's a beautiful restaurant. They're going to have their reception in that. So I'm really looking forward to it. We don't get many weddings in winter here. So I'm looking forward to a bit of a change. And then obviously I have Sunday here, and then Monday we're flying out to Surfers Paradise for the weekends, for a week. So I'm looking forward to that. So next week's Friday show won't be live. We get back late Friday though, so I may be able to do it Saturday morning with you guys. So it certainly won't be Friday, but I will post sometimes when I'm there anyway, just show you what I'm up to, just sort of keep everything sort of flowing a little bit. So I thought I'd do that with you guys. So stay tuned to look around lovely Surfers Paradise. For people that don't know what that sort of is, that place, it's sort of a little bit like Florida for you guys in the US. It's sort of that. Excuse me if I cough. I've still got this bit of a cold hanging on. So today we're going to obviously go through all the latest news and rumours, and at the end I'll give you time for questions. So if you do want to leave questions, please make sure that you put the @David Oastler. It just makes sure that I won't miss any questions at all. I'm just laughing because someone's saying any interesting on shooting brick walls. I'm drinking a Peroni with you guys today. Lovely Italian beer, really nice. So cheers everyone. All right, so we might get started anyway. Make sure before I go any further, have a look at Kiara's video that she posted. She was dying to take me off in a video and basically pretend to be me a little bit. initially she started off really trying to pretend to be me by saying "G'day everyone" and all these sort of things, and in the end she couldn't do it. We took about 15 takes to try and get it, and she just said, "Look, I'm just going to be me." And then I think she did a great job, actually. It was really fun. I did have to set the camera up for her, like exposure and things like that. But then she shot all the images herself, and she did a really great job. Like, it's actually really nice, the images that she shot. I did post a couple yesterday. Let me just see if I can bring this up and show you. Where are we? I did post a couple... I'm just going to make this smaller so you can see it, that I took of them. So let me just see if I can switch for a second. Yesterday. Let me just see if I can fit the whole thing in. Yeah, so I took a couple yesterday that I did. The interesting thing was I wanted to try and do something with a fairly hard light. And this was the whole exercise of doing that. This location is just 5 minutes from my home. I'm very lucky. It's a beautiful stream that comes past my home, or near it, only 5 minutes away. So we went down there, and I wanted to try and do an image using harsh sunlight. And so I sat Kiara directly in that, and that's what you've got to watch. You'll notice the shadows really look quite beautiful because of the place that I've actually positioned her face. So... yeah, and I think it's actually lovely. And as I was shooting away, this is with the 85 Battis, as I was shooting away, a wind gust came and blew her hair beautifully like that. And I thought, yes, sometimes you just capture images where it's just perfect. There's only one thing I probably don't like so much is the arm's a little bit bent here, and girls can tend to go backwards a little bit with their arm. But I don't mind the image overall. I love it, actually. I love her expression. I love the way her hands are nice and long through here. But the sunlight... reason why I'm showing you this is don't let the sunlight worry you if you're having to deal with harsh light. This was shot midday, and it was done with the harsh light, no clouds anywhere, and it still looks quite beautiful. You've just got to work with it, and what I'm trying to say to you is that you can, and this was just done with natural light. The other one I'll show you is a Lenny. Let me just open up a Lenny's one so you can see that one. So this is a Lenny's one that I did as well. And again, sometimes images like this are just beautiful. She wasn't expecting me to take this shot, but I adore it because it was unexpected, and it's a moment in time that was between images that we were actually taking. And I just love the way the hair, again, is just coming in across her face, even though she's sort of trying to move the hair away from her face. I really love the way that image actually looks, and I really like it. Again, these are all artistic choices that you make, whether you like this or not. I'm dealing again with harsh sun, so you can sort of see that if you're looking at some of the shadows. But again, I think it's beautiful, and this is too where Sony excels too, because the dynamic range is so great on these cameras that you can get great results just even dealing with these sort of really contrasty, bright type days. And as long as you nail the exposure okay, you're going to be fine. Shadow detail's still there, the highlight detail's still there. I exposed for the highlights on both of these just to make sure I didn't blow out anything. But, just terrific. And I love those two images. I'll post more of these coming up soon. All right, so let's go through news. Because I've got a few things I wanted to talk to you about today. First story is about the new Nikon. We're going to go through a couple of things about the new Nikon mount, and then we'll move over, obviously, onto some Sony stuff. I noticed here that they were talking about the sensor size, and I didn't think that, I thought the reason why Nikon were going to make this larger mount size was to fit potentially a different sensor on there. I thought they were going to go... I'm just trying to read in here what they're saying about the sensor size, because I thought they were trying to go to medium format, and that's the thing that I thought they were trying to do. But it looks like, according to Sony Alpha Rumors, that they're talking about this sensor size, which is a 43.8 by 32.9 millimeter sensor. I'm not sure where that comes about. I'm not quite certain, because I would have thought with that sensor size that the hole that they're actually dealing with in that they could fit the full frame sensor in there, the full one. But there's an interesting article on Sony Alpha Rumors talking about that, and basically what they're saying is that he's actually saying that it's only 1.5 times larger than full frame. Really, what they're basically saying is there's no real advantage to going to this over having a normal full frame sensor. So I'd be curious to know what you guys think about this too. I would have thought that if they were going to do this, they would have obviously put a full frame, which the full size sensor in, which if you look at it, it does give the size of that, which is 54 by 40 millimeter. And they're saying down the bottom here that they hope that if Sony will ever join the medium format world, that they will go for the larger 54 by 40 millimeter sensor. It would become a mirrorless system for ultimate quality, something no other manufacturer could ever match. And that's because they do make their sensors, and it would be a really interesting thing for Sony to actually do. But basically they're saying in here, if you check the DxOMark scores about these sensor sizes, there's not much of a difference between that slightly larger format sensor than using the full frame sensor. So I'm not certain where this all comes about, and I'd be curious to know what you guys think. But I do believe that Nikon are probably making this mount so they can fit a full frame sensor, a medium format sensor in there. But it's not really something that I'm even interested in personally, because I have shot with that before when I used to shoot fashion years ago on film. And you've got to be very slow and meticulous about it. So it's not something that I would really want to go down and actually get. But whether they're going to do something in this that have a full frame sensor and then have the crop mode, a medium format sensor, and then have a crop mode that gives you full frame, that's still got to be determined. And that may be something that they do from their initial release. And it's going to be interesting to see how they go about that and if that's the way they end up going. The good part is, I suppose, if they've already made this opening that big already, that you'll be using the same lenses between both systems. So it is a smart move, actually, if you think about it. And it's just an interesting one. So that's the first part of that story. I wanted to bring up this because the next one is debunking the myth about Sony not being able to use super fast FE glass. And this is a really interesting one because I know a lot of the Nikon fanboys and all this sort of stuff and Canon and everyone are saying that, you just can't fit this wide angle lenses on the Sony mount. And I always thought, well, that's not true because you can get 0.95 lenses for Sony. It's just that they're manual focus lenses. But reading this article here, I think what Sony are saying is it's a myth that you actually can have lenses that will fit the FE sensor mount. And there's no reason why they can't do it. And if you read this, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but they're saying basically that they can do it, but due to the cost and size of these lenses, it's something that Sony haven't been really that worried about doing. Because what they're saying is that if you're going to have a 0.95 lens that has autofocus and everything built in, it's going to be incredibly expensive, and it's also going to be very, very big. So they actually say in that article, and I will stick it down below, but they're actually saying in that article that it's something they may look at later on, but not until they've caught up with all the other lenses that they need. Because remember, they still need to add other lenses, and they're still doing that all the time, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But they're obviously trying to add other lenses before they even think about adding 0.95 lenses. Because if you read that article, what they're saying is how many people actually need that. And I did discuss that with you in the last live, I think, or the last frequently asked questions show that I had with you guys, that I do envy the Canon 85 1.2, and I would love something like that just for a point of difference. Now, a lot of people were saying, yes, that lens not really that sharp, but you don't need really sharp lenses if you're dealing with portraiture. I mean, if you look at Irene's photos that she puts on, people like that, their images are gorgeous, and they're always shooting at 1.2. And it really is a stunning look that you can get for portraiture. Now, a way to get around that for me may be the 105 when it's released. The Sigma 105 might be a great lens that I can use for that, because due to obviously the longer focal length, you may get a similar look or something that's different again that will give me a look that I like, that will give me that soft type out of focal look that I do love sometimes for portraits. And like I've said to you, it is something I've always missed, and it's something I've actually thought about occasionally, is to buy the Canon 1.2, the 85, and then just stick it on a Sigma MC11. But I'd love to know your thoughts about that in the comments. Is that something you would always... Does anyone have that envy of being able to have that to shoot at 1.2? Yes, I know you can stick manual focus lenses on there, but to be truthful about it, I just don't have the time a lot of the times to shoot like that. I really want it to work with autofocus because I'm often traveling a little bit fast and moving around, and I just don't know if I've got the time to do that, where it's so nice now with the way that these cameras focus that you can just use IAF. But let me know in the comments about that, because I'd be just really curious to know what you guys think. Cheers, guys. So, would you be interested in a 0.95 lens? Because, like I said, according to this article, there's no reason why Sony can't do it. But clearly at this stage, they're saying that they just don't have the need or the time at this stage because they're trying to create more FE lenses. Do you think that they should be really concentrating on the normal standard FEs, even some sports lenses, you know, 500-600 millimeters? Other lenses like the 24, the 135 lens, should they be concentrating on those before they even consider going to 0.95? I'm not sure whether Nikon might have bragging rights and bring out a lens that is 0.95 right from the beginning, because that may give them bragging rights, and if that lens focus is really great and works fantastic, it might give them some bragging rights over what we've got on Sony. But let me know what you think about that, because I'd be really curious to know. Just continuing on this, I noticed there was a comparison, a mock-up was done, which shows the new cameras compared to the Sony A9, or it'd be the same as the a7 III. I mean, I think they're identical if you look at the size of the two of them. What do you think about the design? It looks to me more like a Fuji X-H1, really, looking at that, or a mix between a Fuji X-H1 and a Panasonic G9 or something. I'm not sure. The battery grip, or the grip, the hand grip itself looks really good, looking at that. And I think it would be really quite nice to hold, particularly for people that have larger hands. Like I said, I've got no problem with these at all. I mean, I'm quite comfortable and happy with holding these. But, you know, like, I mean, my hands aren't that... I mean, I'm only short, so... And my hands are only quite small. So, you know, for me personally, this fits great. And I've got no problem holding it now with the new grip. I really quite like it, actually. And I don't even use the battery grip, because I find that this works really great with my... hands, and I can get to the thing to take off the lens and that really easily. I know some people were saying that they were getting their fingers caught between the lens and the actual body here. I don't have that problem at all. I mean, I've got plenty of room if you look at it, and I like it being smaller. But clearly, I suppose they've tried to keep the Nikon I suppose the Nikon fan base reasonably happy by having a larger grip, because it matches more of their digital SLR line. Let me know what you think about that. What do you think about that design? Do you like that? I don't like the way, though, it seems to obviously only have the one wheel, though. That's going to be a pain in the backside if you're shooting manually and you want to change aperture and exposure, shutter speed. It's going to be a bit annoying, and I think that's one downside about this camera that really not many people are talking about, but I do think that's a real downside. I like the controls to be on the camera. But let me know what you think about that. Just be curious to know. Guys, if you could too, really appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up. Just makes sure more people know I'm live. So let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know in the live chat what you think about that design. Do you like that? Are you happy with the Sony hand grip as it is, or do you always use, obviously, the battery grip at the bottom to give you more sort of grip and make it more feel like a digital SLR? Like I said, I don't go down that track. I've got them. I've got a grip for that, and I've also got a grip for my a7iii too, but I just don't use them. Next story. We've got good news for Sony. This is the sales reports. So what they're saying here is that their sales has got a 6% increase and a 2% forecast increase in the imaging segment. And basically, like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing with you guys, but if you look down here, they're saying that the sales increased 6% year on year to 164.2 billion yen. and the operating income increased 2.9 billion yen to 26.1. And it's basically saying, though, that the increase in sales and operating income was primarily due to the increase in sales of high value added products, particularly interchange lens mirrorless cameras and lenses themselves. So what they're saying here is that the higher end mirrorless cameras is where this is all growing. So obviously the a7 III, the a7R III, the A9, and particularly lenses as well is where all this revenue is actually coming from. Now 6% is not a really fantastic growth, but in the marketplace at the moment where they're saying digital SLRs are declining, it's actually quite a good result. And you know, they probably would be quite pleased with that. At least they're growing rather than going into negative. So it's quite good results for Sony, really. And I think they'd probably be quite happy with that. And remember now, they're also releasing new lenses like the 400, the 24, which I'll talk about shortly, things like that as well. So it's probably fairly positive news. At least they're going up. And if they release the A7S III, which we expect at Photokina, and a new A6700, obviously their sales are probably going to go up again. Remember too, they also have this massive sensor department too, which is supplying sensors to the mobile phones. It's doing probably all the most of the Nikon cameras and things like that. So that's a really interesting result. But there is an interesting other part to this, and I thought I'd share this with you, that this other report, which is the Nikon report, had a really interesting comment further down, because I thought this was quite interesting and I thought I'd share this with you guys. It's saying in here, this is the interesting one. Interesting to note that the three leaders, so they're talking about Nikon, Canon and Sony, increased their market share by 0.62% at the cost of other manufacturers. So what they're saying, if you look at this, is that Fuji, Olympus, Panasonic and Pentax only grew by 2.9% in the year basis. So in other words, Fuji, Nikon and Panasonic are struggling a little bit. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting comment. It seems to be that are a lot of people moving over to the full frame sector and not now buying, say, the Fuji and Panasonics and Pentax cameras. And that could be what's happening. Perhaps the a7 III too has really hit that marketplace. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when Nikon and Canon also release their cameras as well. But I just thought I'd share that with you out of interest. Next story. This is really cool. I saw this morning. I wouldn't mind to buy this just because it looks so cool. I have cages, and I haven't got one for the a7 III, but I probably have actually, because it'd be the same as the A9. I've got cages for the A9. I've got cages for my A6300, the A6500, and the A7R II. So I've got full-on videographer cages for that. And the only time I use them now is if I am just doing video in itself. The reason why that's important is because you can have areas, you don't have to use the hot shoe, for instance, and you can screw things into wherever you want to connect through all of these attachment areas. And obviously one of the weak points which I've talked to you about is definitely this. I cringe whenever I see someone put something like a really big flash unit, or particularly if they put things like a Neo rotor light or something like that on there. It's just a recipe for disaster, because if you knock that, you're just going to pull this straight out, and it really is a nightmare. That's why if you're doing video, you shouldn't be putting lights actually on this. I would be buying a cage and sticking it onto the cage, because you take all the pressure away from this, which is the weak point of Sony. That is a weak point of their cameras. Cheers. But this cage looks beautiful. It's probably one of the nicest looking cages I've ever seen. I'm just wondering if they mention details. Now, there's separate versions. There's an A9 version according to this, and there's a separate A7R III and A7 III skin. Let me just open this up, because I'm just curious to see if this shows pricing. Oh, okay, it does. They're actually, if you look through here, they're around about the a7 III kit. This is directly through this light look circle is $329. So they're not cheap, but they're not that bad either. It's €279 plus VAT. But how gorgeous does it actually look? I mean, it looks stunning, and I particularly love... I am a bit of a technology geek, and I also love colour, and to have the colour come through these areas, I think just looks beautiful, and obviously gives you a bit of better hand grip. Does it change through here? You can sort of see that all the attachment areas from the top that you can screw things into and do things like that you wanted to use. And this is where I'm saying you can mount your lights and other things through here if you needed to. You can also buy full cage setups too. Like you can put your all of the attachments on there, like handles, follow focus systems will work through there as well. Your rods you can put in too if you're into videography and running larger lenses. There's even grips and things like that you can buy. So it looks like it can be fully customizable, and I'll leave the link down below that you can have a look at this. But I just thought I'd show this to you because it's something a little bit different. But how beautiful does that look? It looks stunning. It really does look stunning. And that might be something I'll look at getting down the line. This might be something particularly, I may wait till the a7S III is released, because I may get something like this for the a7S III, because the a7S III, when I buy it, obviously will be used for video for me, and therefore I might be justified to keep the cage on it, which is what I do, or I used to do with the a7S III, a7S that I had. I sold that now though. So I wouldn't mind to get something like this for an a7S III. I mean, I think now that they've got a version of this for the A9, that's the A9 version here. It's a different colour, obviously, to the A7S III, which is the brighter colour. So that's the brighter colour is the A7S III, and the A9 has a more muted one. I'm not sure whether you can change that, probably not. It's probably a way of making it a little bit different. So I'm not sure what the difference is. Is the grip slightly different with the A9 to the A7 III? Because there's two... Oh, I know why. It'd be the probably the knob on the top. Yeah, it'd actually have to allow for the knob on the top here for the A9. That would be what the difference is. Yeah, they've left an area there that you can see that's for the control of that extra controls that you're looking at through here. There, so... anyway, let me know what you think about that. I think that's absolutely gorgeous. I'd love to get one of those. Like I said, I think I'll definitely get something like that for the a7S III as soon as it's out. They'll probably update very, very quickly. Can't wait. I think it's beautiful. Let me know what you think about that anyway. Now, on to two new lenses. So it's an SR5. They're saying that Sony are going to release a 24 1.4 FE, but I noticed Mike said that he's so happy with his... He's got the FE 24 1.4 Sigma Art, and he's basically saying that it's working fantastic. He even just said that tracking worked well, much better than the MC11 or the MBV. What's that with... oh, you've got the FE version. Mike, okay, yeah, so you have got the FE version. And Mike's saying on there that the FE version, so it's the native Sony one, is fantastic. He's actually said that it works great in tracking, much better. And he also said it's incredibly sharp. So anyway, I'll talk about the Sony one, though, just because that's here. They're saying that it's now an SR5, and they think it will be released in the autumn for you guys. So what's that? Probably another month or so away. They're also saying that there's going to be a 135 FE coming in 2019, but they're not saying whether that's going to be an f1.4, a G Master 1.4 or 1.8. They're saying down here that if you look that... it's just saying, will you buy a new 24? I've got a feeling that the 135 will be a 1.8. I don't think it will be a 1.4 because it will be probably too big. I hope they do a 1.4 because it'd be great to compete with Sigma, but whether they'll keep that as a 1.8. Like I said, I'm still waiting. Hopefully I can get one when Sony Sigma release the 105. I'd love to try the 135 against the 105 Sigma, the Sony mount versions though. That's what I'm really waiting for. So I can't wait for those to be released. And I'll probably... the amount that I may buy this, I may get the Sigma version before I would get the Sony version, because the amount of time that I'd use this, I may not be able to justify the cost of getting a GM version, because it's not going to be on my camera all day. I'm just going to be getting out for some special shots. Like if I bought the Sigma 105, you know, I may get that out occasionally to make a portrait look different and to have that point of difference against other photographers. So it may be that I just carry that in my case, and just for a few shots I'll get that out. I don't think I'll be shooting with it all day because it's probably that heavy, but I'm dying to try it out and see. But do these lenses interest you? I mean, are you interested in a 24? I personally am not. It's not something that I'd use as a prime lens. I would prefer a 35, obviously, which I adore, but Mike is saying in here he adores it. So if that's the type of focal length that you love, it would be a fantastic lens, just like the Sigma would be a beautiful lens. But I would probably prefer something wider than that personally, you know, like a 12 or a 16. I noticed there's rumours, I just got today, someone sent me that Tamron were thinking about a 16 to 35, I think, was the latest rumour that they had for the new Tamron lens. So that could be interesting if that's 2.8. Or was it an 18? I can't remember. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the marketplace. So let me know in the chats anyway whether you're interested in any of these, whether you're interested in the 24 1.4. It could be a great lens on a gimbal, though, if you wanted to shoot with that on a gimbal. But again, it might be quite heavy and you may have to use, say, a Moza Air. It may not fit on the Moza Air Cross. You know, you might want to go for the Rowan S as well if you were going to sort of deal with lugging around fairly heavy type glass. But if that has great autofocus, it could be a great lens for on a gimbal. Let me know what you think about that anyway. Last story before we go to questions is the DJI Mavic drone. I think it's time for a beer o'clock. I noticed there's rumours going around that there's going to be two Mavic Airs released. They're going to have a Zoom and a Pro model. I can't really understand, though, why is anyone interested in getting a drone that zooms? I really don't see the point of it, but let me know what you think about that. Is that something that would interest you? I'd obviously prefer to go for the Pro version of that rather than getting the Zoom version. I don't really understand why you'd want to zoom, but because you could just fly to wherever you wanted to go. But let me know what you think about that. Are you interested in a zoom version of this drone? Now, they're saying, if you read the article, that you're going to have possible interchangeable lenses on the Pro version of this, and it's going to be a larger sensor. So that could be a great thing. I think they're saying that it's going to be a 1-inch CMOS Hasselblad camera sensor on there. It's 24 by, no, that's the zoom. The zoom is actually, I'll just scroll down so you can see what I'm talking about. They're saying in here that the Maverick 2 zoom variant advertises a 24 to 48 equivalent 2 times optical zoom. And it's a 1-inch sensor, so it's up. And it's got, from the sensor before, it's got significantly better performance than the sensor found in the earlier models. They're also saying that The Verge is reporting that users will be able to switch lenses on the Pro camera. So interesting, longer flight time, top end flight speed of 45 miles per hour instead of 40. So interesting. So it looks like I'll probably be having to buy a new drone shortly. I've got the Mavic Pro, which I love. I never went to the Mavic Air. I just kept the Mavic Pro because I think the controller is just better. So I stayed with that. But this may be interesting to me if the Pro version is much better. I may just sell the Mavic Pro or whatever, keep it or something, I don't know, and get a new Mavic Pro. I don't think I'd be interested in the Zoom version. I just don't see the need for that. But I'll wait and see what you guys have in the chat. You may have a reason why you think the Zoom will be fairly good. So, yeah, just curious to know what you guys think. So that's really all the stories. There's not heaps of news. Obviously, we're still waiting on rumours and everything to come through about the new A7S III. I still believe that's going to be September when Photokina's on. We've just got to wait and see. So what I'm going to do now is open it up to questions. So fire away, and I'll I'll see if I can answer anything you have. So let me just clear that. All right, so let me go back up to questions, and I'll just see where people... I was just reading up here too that... what was it? Doing good work on After Effects. Oh, that's, yeah, talking there. That's where Mike was saying here that I asked him about how his... the Sigma 24 1.4 art was, and he said it's killer, sharp like a razor, and native performance. Fast AFS, and he said it's completely noiseless, which is great, so that's why it might be a great video lens. So I asked Mike whether it was very good in tracking, and he actually said a little bit further down that yes, it's much better than the MC11 or the Metabones, so that's really good to know. Langston has said here, I'm interested in testing the ONS and camera offhand this weekend. We'll see how it works. I've had, like I said to you all before, I've had nothing but good reports about the ONS. I just think it's a bit heavy for what I would use it for. But I did mention earlier in the pre-show that it may be something that I buy just to have if I'm just doing video alone. That way I could, use two hands to hold it, and I wouldn't mind having a bit more weight. Apart from that, though, remember I'm doing Fusion, so I want to hold it both at the same time. And, I've mentioned it before, I'm holding two cameras up, and I'll just show you again so you know what I'm talking about. Let me just see if I can find those images. Just so you know. Because I do tend to have the two of them in one hand. I'm going to do a video about this eventually. Let me open one up. So you can see here, let me just scroll to a different window. So you can see here what's going on is I'm holding the two cameras together. So you can see there, I've got the A6500 actually on my gimbal there, which is on the Moza Aircross, and I'm holding the a7iii probably there and taking shots at the same time. So you can sort of see how that's actually working. I'm using the Spider holster belt so that I can put the camera down at the side if I want to just put it down onto my side. I'll open up another one and show you a different image. See if I can find a better one. This will give you a different view. You can see there again what's actually happening. I'm holding that one camera up there in one hand, and then I'm using the a7iii on the other hand and taking shots and video exactly at the same time. So, like I said to you, it's amazing what you can do now with these lighter cameras, and this is why I said to you I love traveling so light. It really changes everything for me. And to be able to do that, like people laugh at me when they look at me, but they don't realise that I'm giving a service that wouldn't have even been possible before I had this type of setup. There's no way you could do this with digital SLR cameras. There's no way. They would be way too heavy to do that. Whereas I'm able to do that consistently and have stabilised images and be capturing great stills with the other hand, because the a7iii has image stabilization as well. So even though I'm not holding that camera correctly in the fact that I'm holding the lens, the stabilization is still enabling me to get perfectly stable shots. And obviously I've got second shooters. I had two other shooters here. Kerry was way up the back as well, shooting different shots. So I did have others protecting me in case if something happened. But, to be able to do this is just outstanding, and it's like I said, you just couldn't do this before I had this type of setup. What a fantastic world we live in. We really do. And like I said, I couldn't do that with the ONS because the ONS would be just too heavy for me to do that type of setup there. And brides hire me for doing this because I'm able to offer them video and stills exactly at the same time. It's a $1,200 add-on. So I'm getting more, and then I don't have to deal with other video. Look, I don't mind working with videographers, but I don't have to work with them because I'm doing everything myself. I don't have to worry about timing because obviously if you work with a videographer, they want a certain amount of time as well. I don't have to do that because I'm in control of everything, and it's just fantastic. Brides love it because they don't have to do things twice. I really recommend you, if you can, learn how to do it because it's a fantastic system. What else? Ken Wheeler Science is saying, am I going to switch to Fuji? No. David said, I need to venture into video soon. I'm still trying to build up my photography skills. Yeah, and guys, I can, if there's any tip that I can give you, it is to learn video, because I really think the two of them are going to become one in the future, especially with how good, say, the Sony cameras and everything are now with shooting Fusion, like I've showed you before, where I've been shooting stills and then all I do is press the record button on the back and shoot some video at the same time. I think it's going to be a needed thing in the future. I'm not certain that how many jobs there's going to be for just still photographers, or how many jobs there's going to be for if you're just doing video. I think you are in the future going to have to become a hybrid shooter, and this is where you're going to have to start thinking like I do. And it's one thing I can say to you, yes, you must learn the skills first. So if you're just learning photography, you are going to have to learn to do that photography really well before you start doing video. But once you think you've mastered enough with the photography to become fairly good at it, I would suggest then you start to learn video, and there's stacks to learn. It takes ages. The same if you're a videographer. Learn to do the video side of it first really well, and then try and move from that area into your stills, because you're in the same boat. You'll have to learn to do stills as well at the same time. Where were we? Langston said, cool, thanks. Looking for a wide prime for a gimbal. 24-105 is killing me. Yeah, it's probably too big, Langston. That's why I tend to use these. You know, I'm tending to use, I like this quite a lot. I like the 35 2.8. That works great. I also love the 55. And the 10-18 is brilliant on a gimbal. Yes, it's only f4, but it's so light, and I love using that. Even on full frame, you just go, like I said, you can use it on full frame and at 12-16, so you lose the 10 and use the wider end, the other end, but you can do it at 12-14 mil, and that works great. Or you can just go into Super 35 mode and then shoot it that way. Jim said, I've had my a7 III for a couple of weeks and love it. I know you can't fault that camera. That camera is amazing. I adore it myself. Fathom Rock is just saying hi. That's where he said, anyone interested in shooting brick walls? Mike said, hey everyone, let's give David a thumbs up. Thank you, Mike. Jim said, all greetings, all lens artists. Kevin said, she did a great job. She has a great eye. I know that's the video yesterday I posted with Kiara shooting a Lenny. We had so much fun. I was killing myself laughing in the background, doing what she did when she was rolling on the floor, and just the way she was moving her legs, and you know, these stupid positions that she was getting herself in. It was a crack up. It was really funny. I'll have to do another one like that eventually with her, because I really did enjoy it. And the funny thing was, for me, I enjoyed, like I said, I set the camera up for her, like I did the settings for her, and things like that, because she wouldn't have known how to do that. But her eye is really good, and her image is actually, particularly the second half where she's shooting with the rock as a background, the images look really quite beautiful, and I would have been happy with them. Melbourne Drone Service is saying, hi, g'day mate, good to see you on here. Mike said, 58 watching and only 16 likes. Come on, guys. Hit that like button. Thanks, Mike. Jim Ped said, like button, please. Peter Kent said, hey, all. Dew said, cheers to David. He's true blue. Thanks, mate. Doing says, g'day from PA. Jim said, two things. Sony co-developed the medium format sensor for phase 1. Yep. And the Nikon Z-mount operating is the same size as Fuji's medium format. Okay, so to be like the XH1. So that's interesting. Ken Wheeler Science said, I have big fat sausage fingers and they can get caught all the time. Yeah, well, you need to lose some weight in those fingers, Ken. Gerald said, Nikon, I think, will have the 0.95 for bragging rights. Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen, Gerald. I think you're probably right there, what you're saying. But for me, the 1.4 is fast enough. Let Sony give us more lenses at 1.4. I have a Sigma R20 1.4. Sony could make one. Rich is just saying hi. Hector said Sony rules. Jim said Mikaton, yeah, that Xeon guy can never mount it. Does the 35 0.95. Yes, and it is cheap, Jim, but it's only manual focus. Just remember that. I don't want to, I know you can do it, but I just don't want to have many manual focuses lenses. If I was going to buy a manual focus lens, I'd probably buy a Voigtlander or something like that, or one of the 12mm lenses where it's really wide. If you're dealing with a 135, yes, people can do it. I think it was, I can't remember who said it. It might have been Mike was showing me some of his work, and it was fantastic with the 135 on manual focus. I think that was the Tamron or something. Or Samyang, and they looked outstanding. But for me, the way I work, I just can't justify that time it would probably take. So I want an automatic focus one, an AF one. But it doesn't mean you can't do it, as Mike showed me. I think it was Mike. His results were fantastic. But yes, I did think about getting one of those, one of these Mikaton ones when I had the GH5, because I needed that to be better for low light. But it is possible, obviously. It's like I said, it's only the autofocus, and that's probably why when I read that article earlier that Sony have said they haven't done it because of the cost and the size, that they just can't justify it at the moment. But they were saying there's no reason why they can't. So that was interesting. Gerald said, I have grips for all my Sonys, the a6-500, the a7R3 and the a7 III, but don't use them all the time. My hands have gotten used to the Sony grip, no problem. Yeah, I'm the same. I've got them and I never use them anymore. It used to be an advantage when I had the a7 III and I was doing video, the a7R2, because if I was shooting video on that, they used to go through batteries like crazy, and to have the two batteries on it was good. But the batteries are so good now on these cameras that it's not such a big problem anymore. So I don't tend to use the grips. But let me know in the chat how many of you do prefer to have the grip for that bigger grip. I know if you're dealing with longer lenses, like if you had the 100 to 400, you might like that for the balance. But I've used the 100 to 400 on the A9, and I liked it without the grip. I just don't want that bulk and that weight. Peter said, if we're talking about 43mm sensors full frame, then an f2.85 135mm and a 28-35 1.4 is all I really need. Okay, Micro Four Thirds with their 21mm sensor, who needs that 0.95? Yes, they do, Peter, for that, because the sensor is not that great in low light. You need that to get the low light in, because remember, a 0.95 is probably similar to only having an f1.8 lens, something like that, on Micro Four Thirds. Julia's just saying hi. Mick's saying like Legos on the camera. That's that grip I think I was showing you before. 64 billion yen is about $1.5 billion. Yes, not bad, is it, Jim? Zan saying g'day from New York City. Carl saying 17 to 35. Oh, is that what that's right, that's what the Tamron was, Carl, wasn't it? It was the 17 to 35, yep. MBW said, hopefully Tamron does a 14 to 35. 16 to 35, that'll be pretty great. Yep. I may be interested in if they do one, particularly for a gimbal. Like I said, I've definitely thought about, and I probably will buy the 28 to 75 when it's in the shops and I don't have to put it on pre-order. I probably will buy that to stick on a gimbal because it's the perfect wedding lens for gimbals, for video. Because remember, you've got the macro really up close. I can do flowers, I can do jewelry, I can do wedding details, dress details, things like that. I can shoot 2.8 if I need it, and the autofocus is outstanding, so I probably will get that. So I may also be interested in if they bring out a 14 to 35 or a 17 to 35, whatever it's going to be, Tamron lens as well. If that was 2.8, could be also be a great gimbal lens. GR said, so you want your Sony to function like a digital SLR? How about this handy dandy Lego looking scaffold? You can build for it. This way you don't have to rip off your hot shoe and look like a Terminator. Like I said to you though, it is a problem, yeah, with a hot shoe. Don't put things on that hot shoe unless you have to. The Panda's here saying, hi. No beer, Panda. That's not good. Joel's just saying, hell yes. Is that with that adapter, Joel? I think it is. I'd love it, actually. A zoom on a drone would be good to do a dolly zoom effect. Interesting. What else have we got? Carl said the Tamron rumour is for a 1735 2.8. Yep, that'd still be a great lens. I just don't know if it's wide enough. I would have liked it to be a little bit wider than that, Carl. What do you think about that? Does 17 to 35 interest you? I probably would have liked 16 or you know, a little bit wider. Melbourne Drone Services, I would prefer the Pro. I use 90mm equivalent zoom lenses on my Inspire 2, as you can operate within 30 metres from people unless you have the... okay. As you can't operate within 30mm from people unless you have consent from then the 15mm with a license. Okay. So you're saying you prefer the Pro. Yeah, I'm the same as well. I'd much prefer that Pro and have the ability to change the lenses, and that would be much better. I think that would be far better than having that zoom as well. I agree with you there. Where are we? Carl said we need to make a paper mache mock-up of the A7S III. They haven't showed anything yet, though, Carl. That's the thing. That mock-up was done from the videos, I think, so it was actually done from that. Therefore, they could get a fairly accurate reading of how it would be. Let me just bring that up for a second. What else have we got? MBW said, no questions from me tonight, but love the live streams. MBW said he been Boo or something made a video about the Rowan S gimbal that has the lower motor arm. Can't remember his name though. Hembu, is it? You're saying there. Robert saying hi from Alabama. Hi Robert, good to see you joining in. DC said, is Sony going to offer a medium format camera next year? Because Nikon's new medium mirrorless has a huge mount that could be a hint of a medium format camera in the future. Look, I think Sony are definitely considering it. I think it possibly could come sometime next year, but I don't think it's one of their priorities at this stage though. Because remember, I don't think there's such a big market for that type of camera. They'd be probably better off to release an A9 II. Obviously, the next camera that's going to be announced, I believe, is going to be the A7S III. It's going to take them a while to probably catch up on orders for that. They still have got back orders for the A7 III, although I noticed a couple of places had them, I think, in stock. Whether they're still in stock, though, they might not be. They're still trying to catch up with that, so that's, you know, a problem. So I don't think they're going to push out something like a medium format at this stage. They may further down the track. I think you might find there'll be an A9 II brought out first, or you may even get, say, an A7R4 could come out. I think they'd be probably coming out before something like a medium format camera would be around. Because remember, they're not going to be big sellers. There are a certain marketplace will be using a medium format. For the average user out there, they do not need a medium format camera. And that's one thing you've got to consider. That you've got to be very slow and methodical if you're dealing with that. They're really only good for landscape and things like portraiture in a controlled environment. They're not good for weddings, events, your normal portraits, things like that. So I just don't think they'd be a priority. Hector's joined. G'day, Hector. And BCS Bamato, I think it's pronounced, is from Santa Barbara, saying hi. Carl said, do Sony's Zeiss baddest lenses qualify for Sony Pro support? No, they don't, Carl. I'd have to send that off to Zeiss if there's an issue with it. I've never had an issue with mine, though, and I've had that since the day it was released. Gerard said, doing stills and video at the same time for hours must be pretty exhausting. I admire your dedication. Well, I don't do it for hours. You've got to remember that I'm only offering a 3 to 4 minute highlight reel. So that's what I'm doing when I offer that. So I'm only recording certain parts of it. Like when you saw me doing that, I would bring up the video for a few seconds, take say 10 seconds, 5 seconds of video, and then I'll put it down, and then I'll just be shooting with my normal camera. So I'm not doing it all day. And that's the thing, I'll often hand it over to my assistant or something like that, and they'll take the video for me. But, you know, I'm not doing that for the whole day, so don't think that I'm shooting the whole day like that. I'm not. I'm not offering full-on videography services, Gerard. I'm only offering a highlight reel. I don't want to be giving a documentary type edit because it's the most boring thing I would ever want to do. I'm just giving this beautiful 3 to 5 minute highlight reel. Gerald said, don't forget to mention the Facebook group. Yes, please, guys, join the Facebook group. I know you might probably get sick of me doing this, but let me just bring it up so I can show you. Let me just go to Photography Videography School. Please join us on here if you haven't. Remember, this page is for you guys as well. It's the Photography Videography School that you can see here. So if you search for that, you'll find it. And basically, this is this week's winner. I've stuck there. I put in a different competition header each time. This week's one is a self-portrait. So if you look down here, you can see that everyone is bringing in their self-portraits. Let me just see if I can bring up all the comments. So this week, you can see that everyone is submitting all of their self-portraits this week. So I'm going to have to choose one of these for the task. And really, it's just a place that you can communicate with people that basically are on this channel. So I've created this site just for you guys. And I want you to share your YouTube pages on there. I want you to share your business pages, your Instagram pages. Not many places will allow you to do that. I've got no restrictions on here, apart from you can't go live to it. That's the only restriction, because that's only for me. Apart from that, you can share whatever you like. You know, because I just don't want sales on there either. But apart from that, you know, it's just a great place. It's positive. If I see anyone being negative in there about anyone, I'm going to delete the comment. And if they do it again, I'll dump it. Because I don't want any of the bad stuff that I see on most other sites with prima donnas that go out there and start slamming other people's work. I want this to be a very positive environment, place that you can ask as a beginner questions, and then someone's not going to have a go at you because it's a beginner question. You can also see that I'll put on there when I'm going to come live on YouTube as well. So please join us there, guys. It's for you guys to do. I'll stick the link on here. I don't know whether it works or not, but I'll stick it on there. It's also always put underneath as well. So join us there, please. It's definitely for that. And I'd prefer you to ask questions on that site rather than ask me questions personally, because I just don't have time often to do that on Facebook. But if you put in answers in there, if I can't answer it, someone else may, or I might be able to later on. All right, so let's get back to questions anyway. Thanks for that, Gerald. Kevin said, what do you think the chances are that we will see more native lenses from Tamron? Oh, definitely, Kevin. It's definitely going to happen. And there's rumours now about new lenses, a wide-angle lens, zoom coming in. It's only a matter of time now. I'm hanging out. I'd love them to do a 70 to 200 f2 version, because that will also probably be light like the 2470. I really hope that Tamron, now that they've started doing it, and you can tell by the sales, they're probably wrapped with how much sales they've got from that lens. We're definitely going to see some more. Gladstone said, hello, I saw a video that a photographer here did a test and found the a7 III skin color is better than the a7R III, more neutral than the a7R III, which is a bit yellow and blue biased. Gladstone, I even wouldn't worry about that too much. There's nothing wrong with the a7R III color science either. All of these things are so bet up by people. They are improving, if that matters to you. They are actually improving color science with every camera that comes out. You can be sure that the a7S III will have better color science again. But there's nothing wrong with the a7R III. No client is ever going to whinge about an image that you put out of the a7R III. No client has ever whinged about the a7R II that I've used. No client has ever whinged about the a7 II. The only people whinging about the color science are photographers and pixel peepers. No client will care, so I wouldn't worry about it. And they're only things that can be fixed with a slight tweak in Lightroom anyway. I don't know why people make a big deal about it. Mario's saying hi. Marlon's saying hey. David said, I have bigger hands, so I definitely need the grip. Yeah, if you have got big hands, David, I can fully understand. And that's where you would be keeping the grip on. Marlon said, wait, so Mavic 2 is coming out when? They're not saying yet when. They're only just saying it's rumoured, but it probably won't be long if it's rumoured like that. I have noticed here in our local DJI stores, the actual DJI stores, are selling off Mavericks and Airs and everything at really discounted prices. So I think that they're probably going to be announced soon. So I wouldn't be buying any drone at the moment. I'll be waiting a little bit. Peter said, my dream camera is a large grip on a tiny light body. Hector said, Dave, Godox has a mini speed light, the 350. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Hector. Let me just bring that up and I'll just have a look. Oh, yeah, I discussed that the other day. Yeah, I actually did discuss that. Yeah, that was the small Godox. Even then, if you're talking about really small lights, I'll just show you. I'll change the cameras. Hang on a second. If you're dealing with these, even though, yes, that's a very small flash, I am saying to you that if you've got that on your camera and you hit something reasonably hard, you will break the flash mount. The flash mounts on the Sony cameras are their weak point. If you Google it, you'll see what I mean. There's quite a few. I've known a couple of photographers that have had their mount torn off the camera because they had flashes installed on the camera itself and they've hit something. It is a definite weak point about the Sony camera, so be very careful with the mount, guys. Very careful. And I definitely wouldn't be putting lights on there. If you put something like a Neo rotor light on the top of that, like I've seen Jason do it, there's no way I'll be doing that in a Sony camera. No way. MBW said the 14 to 35 sound better. Yeah, I don't think 17. I don't think's wide enough. I'm hoping Tamron don't do a 17, but where were we? Lost where it was. Oh yeah, there we go. Carl said the hot shoe is mostly used for microphone and flash triggers. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't mind putting something like this on there because it is really nice and small and there's no real weight on this. But if you're dealing with putting a flash on there, I'm telling you, if it's hit hard, you will break your camera. It will definitely break that camera hot shoe mount. They're just not designed. That's one weakness that they could definitely fix on the Sony cameras. Definitely. Yeah, and use off-camera flash, which is what Carl's saying. I agree, Carl. See, always use like your adapters and then use your flash off. Therefore, you're taking away that light. When I freak is like when I see Neo rotor light stuck on the top of something. That's a recipe for disaster. It really is. Jim said also Nikon speed moves to 50 0.95 Sony lens is under 1,000. Yes, again, no, it's manual focus, Jim. Hector, not that there's any problem with that. Like it's fine. I just don't want to shoot manual focus. I want a f1 and one that I can put into manual if I need to. Hector said, Dave, Godox has a mini 350 speed light for the top of your flash hood to trigger your other lights, say at venues. Less weight on top of your mirrorless works flawlessly. MBW says, but isn't 24 equals 16 on APS-C? Yes, it is. About that, yep. Carl said the mock-up is just a guess and probably has a little resemblance to the final camera. Maybe, Carl. Mike said, just saw Nikon has a counter running on nikonuser.com, which is currently at 23. Yeah, they're announcing it. I think the full announcement's going to be on the 23rd, Mike. Yeah, I think that's what they've now admitted, that it's going to be August the 23rd. And then they probably will announce it then on August the 23rd, and it will be then shown off at Photokina and probably released just after Photokina, I would think. They will definitely want to jump the gun on Canon, I think. So they will be desperate to get that camera out. Sam said, when are you going to play Kiara in a video? That would be funny. Initially, that's what we were going to do. But I thought the problem was I needed to make sure I could film it and everything was right and done correctly. I may do it one day. She wanted to do that, and Kerry also wanted me to do that. I'd have trouble playing Kiara, I think. I may do that one day, though, for a bit of fun. I should do Kiara photographing the angry photographer. Gerald said Sony will have the a7S III and the next i9 out and ready by the 2020 Olympics. Yep. Along with the 500 f4 and the 600 f4 and any other gear for sport shooters and videographers. You're probably right, Gerald. I can just imagine, I'm dying to see what they offer with the a7S III. I just can't wait for that camera to be released. Jim said, QA, do cages help dissipate heat? No, not really. Jim, they don't do anything really. It has to be physically touching the back of the camera. I think you get more heat taken away by opening the LCD at the back or opening the battery department and leaving that open. Carl said, I'm probably going to buy the a7R III, just waiting for some new releases for the price to go down. Why is the grey import price so much lower, and would anyone consider it? Well, I wouldn't, Carl, no. The problem here is if you're dealing in Australia, if you get grey import and there's an issue with that camera, you have to send that back to wherever you bought it from. So say, for instance, you bought it in Hong Kong. You would have to send that camera back to Hong Kong to be fixed if it was under warranty. Excuse me, B is repeating. The other thing too is they don't qualify for Sony Pro support here in Australia either, and that's a big thing for me. So I would prefer to pay the extra and to get the Pro service here in Australia and to also get the warranty service done here in Australia if there's an issue. It also can affect it too if you sell, because I know sometimes when you sell, quite often people want to know that it's actually a locally produced or bought local than a grey market one, so you lose value in it from that aspect as well. But look, clearly if you can't afford it, well then you might have a reason to go and buy a grey market one. I never do though. I always buy the cameras local. Langston said, it has been a nice, friendly learning environment. Oh, that's there on the Facebook side. Thanks for saying that, Langston. Everyone's saying they agree with that. Langston said, other groups feel like people have knives out. I know, and that's the thing. I'm not going to stand for that in that group. If you get any of these stupid prima donnas that start slamming people and saying horrible things, or even not being constructive or nice about the criticisms, I'm just going to dump them out. I'm not going to stand for it. It'll be deleted, that comment, straight away, and if they do it again, I'll just kick them out. Because I don't want that type of thing in there. And obviously, if you're that type of person, don't join, because I'm not going to put up for it. And I've noticed so many other sites, it's in there all the time. There's so much negativity. New photographers are so scared about posting anything in there because, that they'll get slammed. And also the other thing I hate is there's so many restrictions for new photographers out there that, if you're trying to build your following on YouTube and you've got nowhere to post that, well, post it on that site, because I encourage that. Share everything on there to try and get new subscribers. Share your Instagram pages on there, because that is one way that you can promote, and most other places won't allow you to do that. And so I'm not having any of those restrictions there. I want to help it basically promote you. And it's one way of me giving something back to you guys. Go, fan of me. Good to see you in here. Mario said, I always use the grip and it saves me on my video when one battery went dead halfway. Yep. Langston said, yeah, but event shooters do need something and you can't always rig lights elsewhere. Good to know. I will be careful. Yeah, I would never, like I said, Langston, if you're going to deal with having to put a light onto your camera, on a Sony camera, stick it on a cage. Do not use the hot shoe. Stick it on a cage. Buy a cage and put it on that. That immediately strengthens your camera and it immediately allows you to attach that light to a place other than your hot shoe. Carl said, I used two big piece flashes for weddings with my film cameras and always use bracket to hold the flash. Yep. Gerard says, thanks for replying to my comment. Anyway, I bought the Tamron 28-75 in Japan a month ago. It's a great lens, that lens. I haven't taken it off my a7 III since. I love it. You know, I don't blame you. I adored that lens when I had it, Gerard. Julio said, guys, look at this announcement from Nikon mirrorless. That's their second tease. Yes, I know. I've seen that. I saw that yesterday. MBW said, what's a good affordable battery grip? Well, I only ever buy the Sony battery grips, MBW, so I can't recommend anything. There's a Miki grip, isn't there, that some people have recommended. I only use the Sony ones, though, so I never use anything other than that. Gerald said, using battery grips I found does help get some battery heat away from the camera body. Yeah, it will. As well as pulling out the LCD screen. Photomeic said Sony is probably going to announce the a7S III right after Nikon announces their new mirrorless. And you might be right, you know. They may want to try and drag the thunder away, Ike, for that. And you probably are right. To steal their thunder like they did with the a7R III last year. Yeah, and I reckon you might be right. Or they may announce it at WWPI like they did with the a7 III. I think it's going to be Photokina. I'm pretty sure that they're going to announce it then. And they probably will try to counter that announcement from Nikon. I think they will also announce something to combat the Canon version, which will probably be next year. And that's when you might find something like an A9 II or an A7R4 could be announced at that time. Angel said, what are your thoughts on the Sony HLG 3 profile? Not sure if you've tried it yet. I haven't tried it yet, Angel. Everything I've heard about it says that it's a great profile, though, and really nice to use. I'm completely happy with the standard profile, though. I use that standard profile all the time, and everyone has think that I've used profiles when I've done it. Every time I put up a video, people are asking me what log profile or whatever I use. And I even know, like I've mentioned it before, that Craig from Wedding Film School also uses a standard profile without any setting changes as well. So I think it's a lot better than what most people give credit for. Yes, if you do need complete dynamic range, you may be better off going for HLG3. I've just found as long as I expose for the highlights, which is what I always do, the exposure for me is good enough, and I'm quite happy with that. Therefore, I need to do very little editing later on, and that for me is a big deal, to have as little editing as possible later on, and the videos still look gorgeous. So I do believe the HLG3 profile is amazing if you want to have that full gamut, but remember, you're limited on where you can view that, and that's the thing. You really need like an iPhone or one of the latest TVs to get that advantage of using that. But at this stage, I'm just completely happy with the standard profile. And if I do need to do graded because I need dynamic range, I'm usually going to Sign 4 because I can still lower the ISO. I don't like how the minimum ISO is so high on a lot of the logs, for instance. At least if you go into use Sign 4, you can do it on 200 ISO. I like to keep the ISO down as low as possible. What else have we got? Langston says, it says a lot that you don't feel threatened by up-and-coming photographers and you have a place that doesn't mind promoting their work. Appreciated that, though. I'm 38. I don't think I'm up-and-coming. Yeah, look, I've got, like I said, I never hold anything back, Langston, and I love new photographers coming on board. And, you know, I love that supportive nature. Remember, someone had to help me when I started. That's why I think photographers that put blinkers on and don't help others, it's very short-sighted. And you've got to remember that someone must have helped you when you were starting out, and it's always good to give back. I don't like photographers that don't give back. A few more questions and then we'll call it a day because we've been going for 1 hour, 20 minutes. Langston said, is there a recommended cage, specifically no support for flash? Small rig make great cages, Langston. Check Small Rig. Thank you so much, Angel. Really appreciate that. Yeah, Small Rig do great ones, and they're fairly cheap, or well, not cheap, but they're reasonably priced. So check smallrig.com. Gerald said, yeah, the Mickey grip is very good, similar in controls to the Sony. Hector said, Dave, what type of batteries are you using for your Sony a7 III? I'm only using the Z batteries, Sony, Hector. I bought 5 of them. I didn't need that many. I didn't realise that the battery life was so good. I bought 5, but yeah, they're all the Sony Z batteries, so I certainly don't need any third-party batteries. I do tend to just buy Sony batteries, though. I'm not saying the other batteries are no good, but it's just what I do. Demore said, hi David, do you think there will be a Sony A9 II in the future? Probably next year, Demore, I think. Sometime next year, I think that will happen. We don't know when yet, but that's my thinking. Angel said, thank you for answering that. Photomeic said, log profiles are overrated, especially on Sonys. I agree with you. I'm so happy with the standard profile. Like, I really do, and I love how I can process it very fast. I love the way it looks. And people, like I said, always think I've used logs, so you just don't need to use it unless it's in a really extreme high dynamic range scenario. MBW said, Gerald, thank you for that thing. Angel, thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate that. Maria's just saying hi, and Hector just gave a thumbs up. All right, guys, if you have any other questions, I'll see if a couple more come in now. If you have any other questions, please leave them down below. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Just remember, over the next week or so, I'm going to be on a holiday in Surfers Paradise, so just remember that. So I may not be able to get back to people as quickly next week. So there'll be no Friday live. I may do one, a quick one from Surfers, for instance, if I have time. I will post a couple of things while I'm up there, just to show you, what I'm up to and the location and things like that. But I'll probably will do the live next Saturday when I get back. So there won't be Friday, it'll be on Saturday next week, which is your Friday in the US and the UK. So last couple of questions. I think Sony will hold off releasing the A9 II until they can put out a 24 megapixel global shutter, but maybe. That's going to be just a beast by the time they get to that stage, though. That's about it. All right, guys, that'll be all for now. I've got to go get ready for this wedding for tomorrow. So give me a thumbs up if you can, please. Obviously, share this would be fantastic too. Thank you, Mario, for saying have a great vacation. And I'll see you all again soon for the next video, guys. Bye for now.